number one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What's up? Welcome to episode 336 of Sports Card Nation podcast. I don't know if you caught it. We did a special episode of Sports Card Nation, released it on a Monday. We called it 335A, and it had Gary V. We chopped up some hobby. We have a couple similarities. We enjoyed kind of comparing notes, and he's obviously his Topps Chrome V Friends product is out. We talked a little bit about that in the process and how much carte blanche did Topps give him. So if you didn't catch 335A with Gary V, go. That was released this past Monday. Check that out. But this is 336, and Lou Vigliotti's back. And for the conclusion of our conversation, he's a card collector, but has swung heavy into the autograph memorabilia portion. And so this is the second half of that conversation. So quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Lou.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Now the conclusion of our great conversation with collector Lou Vigliotti. I think whether someone is a full-time autograph collector like yourself or me a little bit on a lesser level, I think everyone appreciates, anyone that opens a pack, right? They love to hit, a Mike Trout or an Ellie De La Cruz auto out of that pack. Whether they're autograph collectors full force or not, they would love to own that card or that piece, or if someone's signing for free somewhere, that line is usually very long, no matter of what status the player that is. It could be a journeyman baseball player. If it's a free autograph, there's going to be a line there. So people appreciate, I think, the personalization of the autograph, that the interaction, right? You're going to be right in front of that person. You might be able to say a few things, and they might respond in kind to you. I think there's something to be said about that you can't get in other forms or fashions, and I think that's important, and I think that'll never go away as long as those situations exist. I read a report. I wanted to get your take on this, Lou, as someone who's, I don't know if you would agree being called an expert, but you're very knowledgeable about what you do, right? The FBI has, I think this is a high percentage, but the FBI has came out and said that, according to their estimates, 75 to 80% of autographs in the industry, in the hobby, if you will, are not legit. I know it's a high number. I just think that number's too high. Your thoughts on someone who does this?
Yeah, I think that's a very high number. Probably higher than it really is, but the industry is fraught with fraud, if you will, and this. I mean, you have these auto pens and so on and so forth. So it's real easy to get a signature copied. One of the things that I like when I get the signature is I always try to get a photo of myself with the individual with the item. To me, that's the best authentication there is. I know there's companies out there that do the authentication, the signatures and so on, but I try to do that. And I keep a pretty meticulous record of the date, who the signer is, where I got it, and what was signed. So I've got a spreadsheet, that has it all on there. There are items that I've purchased at auctions before. Those items though, I try to do my purchasing with the authentication by one of the more reputable, or some of the most reputable authenticators out there. But I just like to have that interaction with the individual, and as I said, have the item in the photo with me. In the book, you'll see a number of photos, and some people said, "Geez, Lou, you're in the book a lot," and it's, well, I mean, it's me and
Well, you know what I
Johnny
tell them?
Rogers.
It's my book. It's my
book, right?
What
Exactly.
a
So,
coincidence.
right. So, there's a nice photo in there of me and Joe Montana and him signing this one of a kind piece of an artwork. But that's what I'd like to do to prove that, hey, this is authentic. But again, having said that, and the collection that I have, I've sold very, very, very few pieces. If I do anything with some of the pieces, I put them in charity auctions so that whatever school or whatever can generate some funds from it. The biggest problem I have now is I don't have enough room for everything, so a lot of it's still stored in boxes and so on. And my wife is always saying, "Boy, I hope nothing happens to you, because I don't know what I'm going to do with all of these things." But it's just one of those things. And I think the fraud aspect of it is probably growing a little bit, especially since the signatures now, as we talked about earlier, you can't read them. You don't know who they are. So scribbling it on a line, it's a lot easier to make that fraud than it is for anything else with a pristine signature.
Yeah, it's a great point. To replicate that, like you just said, is a lot
It's a
easier
scratch, right?
than a Derek Jeter or Mariano Rivera, if you've
Yeah.
ever seen those. And yeah, they've made it easy. That's another reason. Like, I wish people took a little more pride or a little more effort in their signature. Like you, I think that number is a little high. It doesn't mean it's not an issue or not a problem in the industry, but 75% is 3/4. I don't think it's 3/4. If you ask me, and it's just off the top of my head, I'd probably say between 40 and 50%.
It's probably a good guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't 73 out of 4. Like, I own stuff, and I've had stuff that I've submitted for authentication, and my percentages are a lot better than that.
Yeah.
Out of your collection, what percentage is in person to you just purchasing it without getting the autograph direct?
I'd probably say about 65% is probably me doing that. Others are, as I mentioned, to reputable places. I mean, there was one, and I mentioned this in the book, Jeppy Roadshow memorabilia, and everything's authenticated by the top places. And some of these are some older pieces, a Casey Stengel piece, a Clark Griffith piece, who was president and owner of the Washington Senators at the time. This goes back 1947. So some of that I went into to purchase some of the older pieces were through the auction houses, reputable auction places, and authentications. But I spent a lot of time and a lot of money at the shows. Now, I shouldn't say a lot of money, because back then they weren't nearly the cost that it is today. When I looked at a recent show and I saw some of the signatures and some of the some of the prices for some of the signatures, it just blows my mind. You try to get a Tom Brady today, right? It's minimum $600 to sign a mini helmet. Now, I would never dream of paying that kind of money. You probably saw a reference a couple times. I paid $99 to get a signature, and I thought that was outrageous. And these are Wilt Chamberlain and some of the other big names. So, but yeah, I try to make sure that I'm the one that's doing it and getting the autograph and making it more personal, if you will. And I do have a number of pieces that are personalized. And people say, well, geez, that detracts from the value of it because it's made out to Lou. And it's like, yeah, I know that. But to me, as I mentioned earlier, it's artwork for me. It's something that I can look at and I can admire and people can admire. If it's made out to me and it happens to be a big name signature and the value is not as great, so be it. That's not why I went into doing this. I went in as a hobby, in with my son and my daughter and my wife accompanying me at shows, and it was just fun to do. And I didn't do it for profit.
Yeah, and here's the other thing with that. It's still the person's signature there. You know, it says to Lou, best, whatever it says,
Yep.
the signature is still there. Right? We sort of, people forget about that part. And like you said, you're not looking at it is just dollar signs, right? It's that memory of meeting that athlete or person and the exchange you may have had with them. And so it's, you know, like you said, you didn't get into it for dollar signs. That's part of it that just comes naturally, but that wasn't your motivation
Right.
for collecting autographs. And I think for people who don't appreciate the autograph or don't do that, sometimes they lose sight of that. You know, it's just, hey, what's that worth? What's that worth? What's that worth? And I get it. That doesn't make them, a bad person. It's just a different way of looking at it than me or you might, if they don't really collect autographs. So
Yeah.
it just kind of comes. It's just kind of par for the course. One thing about the book, you kind of said, why you where the inspiration came to write it is just sharing these stories with people, and then you're like, hey, I can just share this in print, and that's the aspect of the book that I appreciated the most, Lou, was the stories that made these superstar athletes like real people, right?
It makes them human. There's a human
Yeah,
side of them.
and
Yes.
you did a wonderful job of that, and it really comes out. And like I think sometimes we read, whether it be a sports book, a hobby book, or just any book. And I know I said this before we went on. I think sometimes the book lacks some of that personal touch and details and interaction. Right? It just becomes almost too formal. You did the opposite. And I think that's what I enjoyed when I read it. And like I said, I read it. I think 2 days. I was good, and I gave myself a week. And I'm not gonna lie to you, and I've said this before on the show. I'm not a huge reader. I know how to read and all that. A book's got to capture my attention for me to like keep going and finish it. Obviously, yours did that. I think a big reason is the way you told those stories and those interactions that you can't get. A book about Willie Mays is going to talk more about his on the field stuff or maybe some locker room stuff, but not firsthand accounts, so to speak, and that sort of thing. And so, like you said, it gives a human aspect to these encounters and meetings with people. And I think people need that, because I think sometimes we lose sight that these athletes are just like, just like you or me, maybe can hit a ball farther and hit a little harder. But, but at the end of the day, right, they go to bed on a bed like we do. And in the morning they put their pants on one leg at a time, as well. So I think you did a good job bringing out, talk about the process of, is this, number one, is this your first book? And if it is, talk about the process. Was it easy to do? Was it a little more difficult than when you first said, I'm going to do this? Like, talk about like jumping into this thing.
So as I mentioned, it was one of these things where you talk to people, they see the item, you tell the story behind it, and then all of a sudden they say, well, you should put that down, write that down somewhere. So I started it about 2 years ago, just kind of penciling out, if you will, stories, and then I put it away, and then I picked it back up, and so it was one of these processes where it went back and forth. The book, as you mentioned, though, John, it's not that long, and I purposely did it. It's about 100 pages, and there's about 40 photos in this thing. But I did it purposely this way so that it's not a long, drawn out. I mean, I have books here that are 300 pages, and some of these novels and stuff that I'm still working on it 2 years later, but reading these, right? But here's the book, and it's 100 pages. It's quick. The chapters are short. So when I started putting this together, it was more for a personal thing, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to have it published, and I'm going to have it published not to make money, but to tell the story and have something for my kids or my grandkids to go back and look at and say, hey, look, these are some nice stories behind it. There's more memories. When I did this, it started out with, how do I go about getting this thing published? So, I went to various self-publishing companies, if you will. You're not going to see a big name, Penguin Books or somebody like that, pick this thing up. But I went to a couple of different ones, and I got comfortable with the publisher that actually did it, Outskirts Press, and they were helpful throughout the whole story, throughout the whole process. But when you read the book, I think one of the things that I think you appreciate, and a number of people that have read it appreciate, it's me telling the story. So I actually, when I finished my drafts on it, I had a friend who is a professional writer, if you will, an editor, and I said, can you take a look at this? And they got it, and they looked at it, and they said, we could edit the heck out of this thing, right? We could make it 100% grammatically correct. We could make it all this different way. And I said, well, that's not what I want. My whole idea behind writing the book is me telling the story. I want somebody to read this, and they don't know me, but just picture my voice telling the story about getting this. So, and I think when you read it and when other people read it, you see it. It's not, I wouldn't call it professional in a sense of editing and so on and so forth. It's an individual, myself, telling the story of interacting with this individual and their feedback and the banter going back and forth. So that's how it all started up and developed. It is my first book. I don't know what the second one, if there's a second one, is what it's going to be, because there's other stories behind these, what's in here right now. But I'm very happy with the way it came out. I think, as you said, and I appreciate your words in terms of, you enjoying the book, and it's a short read, but the stories behind the story, if you will, of getting the autograph is really what I was trying to convey in all of this.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
You mentioned professional. Sometimes books can be too professional. I think they can be to a detriment. I can only speak for myself, Lou. I like the approach. I like the personal experiences and you sharing it literally as it happened. Like, I wasn't there, obviously, with you, but reading the way you laid it out there, I almost felt like I was. A
number of people have said that. A number of people have said, I felt like I was standing next to you when you've got the autograph to tell the story. I could see, you standing there with Willie Mays doing this. I could see you standing there with Brooks Robinson doing this. I can see you with and you're a Steeler fan, Rocky Bleier. Yeah. A phenomenal individual. And first time I met Rocky Bleier was 50 years ago, and I got a signature then. And then from there, it just I'd reconnected with him at another time. And when I decided to put the story of Rocky Bleier in the book, I reached out to him and I said, I'm putting this in here. He said, love it. Want to see it. And I sent him a complimentary copy of the book, and he came back to me. Here's an individual who, great athlete, great individual, but emails me back and says, hey, read the chapter, love it. This is perfect. I really like what you did with it. Now, I don't know how many today's athletes would send an email back to me saying, I really appreciate what you did. Right. So that's the kind of thing. And people can relate to that when they see it and they hear it. Say to you, what you just mentioned, John, is I can almost see there. I can almost pretend I was there with you on this. So
And that's
it makes it fun.
That's a mark of a good storyteller, right? And that's what books are. Now, in this case, the story's real. Like I know there's fiction and nonfiction, right? But all books tell a story or should.
Mhm.
And you just did the way you went about it and the way you wrote it is, to me, I wouldn't have done it any other way. I can't write a book, but if I was, that would be the way I read it out. I got a joke with you here. Did you tell before he did all this nice stuff? And Rocky's a great dude from all accounts. Does he know you're a Ravens fan?
Oh, he does. Yeah, he does. He does. And I think I ended the story about him by saying, and he's a great man, even though he's a Steeler.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. He knew it, and he got a good kick out of that. He got a laugh out of that one. So
Yeah. He's and man, if go out and get this book, the Collective Dream. But if you don't know about Rocky Byron, I have a little shameless plug here too. Just talk about perseverance, right? What that gentleman went through to get back on the football field. And I wouldn't call him, I think you agree with this, I wouldn't call him a superstar. He was a very good player, but he just loved the game and loved his teammates and wanted to do that again, and knew that even that window would be short under normal circumstances, but wanted to get the most out of that. He's one of the most, maybe not the greatest Steeler, but maybe one of the most beloved Steelers for all those reasons, and then some. And then even after career too, just a very motivational guy. That's like, hey, you can do this. Don't give up. And anytime there's a Steeler function or an event, he's usually right there as he should be. And kind of great guy. And I think him doing that just epitomizes the kind of person.
Exactly. I think you're right. Yeah.
So, and who said, listen, Steelers and Ravens can get along. Look, we're doing an interview. I'm a Steelers fan, and you're a Ravens fan, and no, that's great. You mentioned a part 2. Might we see, or a volume 2, I should say? Might we see?
Yeah, I haven't done anything with it yet. As I look around my room and my items, I got to figure out which ones are going to be, what stories are going to connect, right, with people. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's the thought process right now of figuring out who could possibly be next in the book. So we'll have to wait and see.
There you go. That's called a tease. But listen, for someone who enjoyed this book the way I did, I'd love to see, learn new stories and new experiences that you had. I think it's important. I think it's important, even not so much for me who is old enough to know about some of these guys, but even to a younger set, Lou, that doesn't know them in the same way that me or you do. That it's an educational aspect to it too, to learn more about what this person did and their backgrounds they came from. And, and in many cases, a lot of these athletes were born with silver spoons in their mouth. They had to work and earn everything they got. And I think it's important too to shine a little light on that side of things. Do you attend? Is it going to the Nationals something you try to do each year?
It's been a few years since I've been. I would like to come to the next one. I believe the next one's in Chicago or Rosemont. I remember when it was in my backyard in Baltimore. I spent 4 days there. So so it was much easier to get to. But I do like that, and interacting not just with the signers, if you will, but the dealers, having conversations with the dealers. They have tremendous stories. Some of the card dealers and autograph dealers, they have some tremendous stories. And
there's an idea. Listen, I'm not a publisher or there's an idea maybe for a book too, right? Is some
Exactly.
other, you can intermingle others, some of these big time dealers, their stories along with yours, and that could be the volume two, right? And
Yes, that
maybe a
could
little
be.
bit bigger book, and that's okay. There you go. But go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's a great idea. I was thinking, along those lines as well, is
Yeah.
that, I can tell my story, but, somebody else's story might also, and if I
Right.
can interweave that or intertwine that with some of my stories, it might make it maybe a little more interesting. Who knows? So
Yeah. Is there, as card collectors, right? We all like, hey, I'm chasing this card. This is my Grail card, or this is one thing that's eluded me up to this point. I'm trying to get it. Do you have something that fits your autograph? Is there an autograph that you've yet to, or a piece, maybe even like, is there a specific thing that you have yet to acquire that's on your list to obtain?
no, not really. I mean, I helped out a friend who had a ball signed by Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth, and they wanted to sell it. They needed to sell it, if you will, and I helped facilitate that through an auction house for them. Looking back, I probably should have just bought the ball myself. And I also did the same thing on a 55 and 56 card set, and which also had some what I call star cards, and one of them was a Mickey Mantle rookie. Now, that was, it graded out at about a 2, so it wasn't the $1 million card, right, or whatever. But it was a few. It was decent.
Still very good. Still very
But
good.
but it was one of these things where the individual was looking to cash in on it and knew that I knew a little bit about these things, and they brought it to me. And through various contacts, I was able to bring for her some decent dollars, and she appreciated that. And the individual who ended up buying it appreciated it. And again, I felt good about doing it. Again, I probably should have kept it or bought it myself, but it's just one of those things where, would I like to have those items? Yes, but knowing that I was helping somebody else who could use the money a little bit more, it all worked out for me, and it worked out for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on, sharing some of this insight and your stories. Great book,
Thank you.
Collective Dream. Anyone out there, there's
There it is right there.
watching on video.
Yep.
Great. I love the style. Sharing those personal firsthand experiences. I think some other writers could kind of take a page out of your approach, Lou, and I think it makes for a better read, a better book, and hopefully we get to do it again with a volume 2, or
Yeah.
whatever direction you go in. I always give the guests kind of the final word, where people can go and get the book, find the book, social media, website, whatever you want to put out there for folks to see what you did and what you're doing. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's available both in publish as well as the ebook on Amazon. It's available on Barnes and Noble and other Walmart book sites and so on. You can get it also directly from the publisher itself, Outskirts Press. So www.outskirtspress.com/collective dream. My contact information is in there. And if anyone does buy it, and whether you enjoy it or don't enjoy it, and you want to drop me a line, I will personally respond back. But again, I took a lot of time, a lot of pride in putting this together. So I hope you people enjoy it, John, as much as you did. And I appreciate you having me on to talk about the book and the experience behind it all.
Yeah, and I think they will. I mean, unless you're like an extreme book critic, I think you will enjoy the book.
Yeah.
I don't see how you couldn't. And I know you thank me, but thank you for coming on. I know I made you wait a little bit too, just with the way the schedule was going. So
No problem.
But no, thank you. And listen, we'll have you back. There's some things we can even touch on even more. We can do this again.
If you want to go into some detail on some of the individual chapters, we can do that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Lou. Continued success with the book and future books too. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome having Lou on, and I think one thing we can learn from Lou, right, is I always talk about pivoting from your collection, right? If you want to try something different, or maybe you don't enjoy something in the same manner you once did, you can go in a different direction. And he's a card collector. And, he decided he's going to go heavy onto the autograph side of the hobby. Nothing wrong with that, right? And, again, you're the CEO of your own hobby company. So whatever direction you want to take you and your company, that's up to you. And that's the beauty. That's the fun of the hobby. Even myself, who's been in this 40-something years, even in the last 4 to 5 years, I've started to collect different things or add on to what I already collect. And that's the fun of it. So there you go. All right, we're going to hear from our Hobby is the People announcer of the week, some closing thoughts, and wrap up this week's episode.
Time for our Hobby is the People announcer of the week.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, Cousin Oz, the People's Mailman. And along with Cousin Tony, the Architect, we are Cousins Collectibles. Make sure to check us out on the Cousins Collectibles podcast, as well as on Instagram at Cousins_Collectible. Before we get out of here, we wanted to remind you of a couple things.
First and foremost, remember, the hobby is the people.
And as always, keep focused, keep positive, and keep collecting.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People announcer of the week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
Hi, I'm Isaac Alpert, a longtime card collector and the co-founder of the Penny Sleever. My wife and I started the Penny Sleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card, or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Penny Sleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Penny Sleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.